Good afternoon, everyone. Honored to be here at IISc for Human Spaceflight Symposium. Myself, Janvi Dangiti. I'm an analog astronaut, a scientist astronaut candidate, an advanced scuba diver, and a pilot in training. And today, I'm here to talk about analog astronaut missions and how they're going to help the future human space flights. And I also want to share about my personal trajectory with these analog missions or analog centers that have been trained so far. So the dream of human spaceflight. In 1961, Yuri Gagarin's 108-minute orbital mission actually began the human spaceflight. It demonstrated the humans safe leaving Earth and coming back to Earth. And that's where the foundation has begun. With that, we are aiming to reach Mars, crewed missions for Mars, and Artemis, which is going to be launched very soon to the moon. And it all began with him. So when we talk about human spaceflight, it always comes up with mental, physical, psychological challenges. So the most important five things that I've tried to cover here: space radiation, isolation and confinement, and distance from Earth, which closely comes with the isolation and confinement, and gravity or no gravity or microgravity, and then closed loop environments. So apart, like when we think of going to space or going to some other planet or moon, it always comes up with like how we're going to train. Apart from all the trainings, how we're going to mimic this environments here on Earth before they actually launch into space. And that's where these analog missions comes in the picture. So before we go deeper, let's try to understand what are these analog missions. So analog missions are the simulations on Earth that mimics the condition of space, or not just space or any, apart from Earth, anything that we want to reach out of Earth. So these are a few pictures I've gathered. The first picture is the Blink. It's a Jordan's analog center, and it's their EVA, and them doing cave extravehicular activity during the mission. So the main part of these analog missions, like these analog missions can happen at any extreme environments. Let's say it can happen on desert, in the ocean, or under the cave, or like under the volcano, any extreme environment. So the main role of these analog missions are to help astronauts to get adjusted and understand the isolation and the training and the pressure that comes in the confinement. So I have my own spin-off trainings with these analog missions. I was trained with AATC and then with Iceland Geospace. And then I had undergone through some scuba diving course and then IVA operations. I want to share in detail picture of every training I've undergone. So this is my first mission I've did. It's Poland AATC. It's a analog astronaut training center in Krakow. So my mission was like in that particular mission, I was the youngest among all the crew that have been participated in that in their center. So it was a long duration space flight. It was like 10 to 14 days, and we mimicked the lunar isolation, and we were completely working on this, working on with lunar timelines. And this is the observatory. So we will be in a habitat that is really far from the city. That's almost like a forest, and we will be isolated, like locked for planned duration. We will be conducting so many experiments, doing EVA, and I was an astrobiologist during the mission. So I was working on hydroponic systems, like trying to do some other, like for the seed germination, I'm trying to use some other base apart from the soil. So this is my crew. And I used a cat straw instead of soil to the seed germination. And during like every isolated mission always comes with so much of health monitoring, psychological monitoring, and there will be always someone who will be keeping an eye on you, checking you 24/7. And there are some facts, like we were doing some emergency procedures during our, like, of course they are fake, but to let you understand how it actually works, like when you get an emergency during an isolation, how would you react? That's what they're trying to mimic during these analog isolated missions. And yeah, it was about my first isolated mission. So they usually give us some psychological tasks to understand our psychological state for the from the first day to the last day. And these analog mission always comes with a lot of trainings, including testing life support systems to the robotics that we want to test in the future missions or in the space someday. So my next mission is in Iceland, which is by Iceland Space Agency, Iceland Geospace. So the interesting part of this mission is I was like I got trained when other Apollo astronauts once got trained for their lunar mission. So these places are where exactly the previous Apollo astronauts, including Neil Armstrong, Buzz Aldrin, and Collins, everyone undergone there. It's their team, and that's my crew. And we were five. And this is during our tectonic evolution mission. Like we were actually doing a field mission. This mission is not an isolated one. So we are trying to mimic the conditions of lunar surface and Martian surface, and we are trying to do how we can pick up the samples and how we can manage the terrestrials on, like trying to mimic the land of Mars and Moon. So yeah, that's the last picture is showing us doing collecting samples. So one person at a time. Yeah. Then comes with my scuba diving and neutral buoyancy. So when I talk about analog missions, there are missions that are on land, under the caves, and there are missions that are happening under the ocean. Because to mimic the microgravity, water in the oceans are the only place where you can get closer to that field or the experience. Because I'm a certified advanced adventure scuba diver from Scuba Schools of Internationals, and this is my instructor, and this is where every astronaut undergo through the training for their space flight, human space flight. And this water, like this particular training helped me to understand to do EVAs in very reduced mobility. You know, doing things even in the isolation, it more concentrates on our psychological state and our concentration levels. But when it comes to water, like when you're working under pressure and with very reduced mobility, without communication, just it gives more like a clear experience of being in space. So apart from these analog missions, I've also been part of IAS, International Institute of Astronautical Sciences, where I've been graduated from Postum Academy. So during this, I had an opportunity to get a gist of basic astronautic trainings. And as a part of it, I had undergone through hypoxic chamber, and then IVA suit evaluations, intravehicular activity suit evaluations, and extra G flight. And we also did some simulations wearing this spacesuit, just to understand how it feels to, you know, work with such pressure. And that's for very short period, and that gave us uh, a real understanding of how it feels to be an astronaut in actual attire. So the important, apart from this astronaut training in the analog missions, the main thing for these analog missions are, they are technology test beds, because we don't know how a technology reacts after going to space, or how a person that actually operated in an isolated or confinement place. So these analog missions give us a low budget place and also an opportunity to test them even before launching it into space. So right from the life support systems to the robotics that we want to send to moon or Mars someday. Let's say Shreya ma'am showed her lab pictures where they were demonstrating it at certain place by creating and mimicking the lunar surface or Martian surface. That's the closer loop when it comes to analog mission. So that they give the place and an opportunity to test our technology that we want to launch into space someday. And there are like currently NASA or ESA, JAXA or ISRO, all of these space agencies are trying to concentrate more on these analog missions because they're highly investing. Even ISRO have started recently doing the analog missions, and today I met one of other team that working really hard for setting up an analog mission in India and for ISRO for future human space flights. And this is NASA's analog mission, and this is NASA's, and this is ESA. No, this is Canada. Canada's analog mission, which is NEMO, and that is NASA's, and this is of ESA. And there are many other missions all over the globe. Most of them are like private, but there are very few limited access to the there are very few analog missions that are by the government, and that is fully concentrated to the astronauts that they're going to launch from their space agency. And yes, the future of analog research in India have just begun, and it's going to be even more interesting in coming days, because we are going to launch uh, astronauts very soon into space, Gaganyaan mission. So if once that started, we're gonna have a lot more human space flights. And for that, we need our own human isolated centers or research labs that will help astronauts to undergo such trainings. And we need that initiative, and I really hope that we're going to begin this soon. Yeah, I want to conclude by saying these analog missions are not just like a tourism or fun, but it's a place where we can actually learn and imply things. And one more thing I want to mention, that these analog missions are not just for the people who are dreaming to go to space or trying to reach stars, but this is going to help many researchers who wants to understand the environment and conduct experiments. And there are so many opportunities for students like us who wants to experience this. There are a number of missions happening all over the world. You can apply, go participate, and get that exposure and experience. It's going to you're going to have a very different experience. Trust me. And thank you so much.